Hello, I am Yogini Sunita, and this is Meditation, Yoga, and Stuff podcast. I believe my dharma or my life's purpose is to share my understanding of meditation, yoga, and Ayurveda, holistic healing science of India. I make these amazing wisdoms accessible and adaptable for present times. So let's start. Hello and welcome to the podcast. Thank you for being here, Sally. Today's guest is Sally Kempton. And I have so many books of Sally. I've listened to Sally's audio books and things like that. It's amazing. And I'm so grateful that she's here today. Sally, can you please introduce yourself in your own words?
Well, my name is Sally Kempton. I'm a teacher of spiritual wisdom and an author. I've been doing practice for about 50 years, and I'm a former sannyasin Swami. I was a student of Swami Muktananda of Ganeshpuri, and who initiated me into sannyas. And in 2002, I left my robes mainly because I wanted to be able to teach from where people are. It had begun to seem no critique of swamis, who are often very, very great beings, but I wanted to have comparable problems to the problems my students had. And so I left the ashram and I left my robes and I began to teach independently. I live in California and I do lots of courses and podcasts and programs online. And, of course, these days, pretty much everything is online or on Zoom. And I teach mainly from the non-dual tantric texts, the teachings of Kashmir Shaivism, the Trika lineage, and a lot in the last few years about goddess. And I also teach more straightforward texts, as it were, the Yoga Sutra, the Bhagavad Gita, Yoga Vashishta. So essentially, I'm teaching yoga, especially yoga philosophy and meditation.
Beautiful. And when was the first time you realized that this is your path? Like when you introduced to the wisdom of this ancient wisdom of yoga?
Well, in the a long time ago. So I was on a spiritual path with a Western teacher and in a Western tradition, and I experienced a very strong kundalini awakening through a contact with a Tibetan teacher, which kind of started me on that particular internal path. And shortly after that, I met Swami Muktananda and began to study with him, travel with him, serve him. And I learned everything from him. I used to edit his books, and he had us, those of us who were teachers or who had communication skills, he had us trained in various texts by an Indian Swami. So I received a pretty thorough education in the texts, and that was in the 70s and 80s.
And the Kashmir Shaivism, how that introduced into your path? Like,
well, yeah. So my guru was he was a traditional Indian sannyasin, meaning he studied Vedanta, which it tends to be the philosophy that sannyasins are drawn to. And in his sadhana, in his practice, his MO was to visit different spiritual teachers, different saints and siddhas. And when he met his guru, who was an avadut, a very, very unconventional, very powerful being, who lived in Western India in a town called Ganeshpuri near Mumbai. And he received Shaktipat initiation, had a very, very strong Kundalini awakening. And after 9 or 10 years, he became self-realized, enlightened. And it was his experience, his post-enlightenment experience, that drew him to Kashmir Shaivism. Because in Vedanta, there is no talk about Shakti, about guru-disciple relationship, about Shaktipat and Kundalini. And his awareness was that his entire path had been fueled by the awakened Kundalini through the grace of the Guru. So he began to read Kashmir Shaivism and eventually began to teach it to us. So it was really the first scriptural tradition that I studied. And it was radical to me. It was completely transformative for me. I not only because the texts themselves are so filled with transmission, with beauty and wisdom, but also because they had an almost magical effect. And this is, one of the things about the texts, the scriptures of the Indian tradition, is that when they're transmitted to you by a realized master, they not only, open you intellectually, they also work in your body and they affect your relationship to the outer world. So I would have all these small little miracles going on in my life, as I started studying it. And it basically became my worldview. And this was in the mid to late 70s. So I've been studying the Trika system for many years.
I can see, I can see that in my, when I was introduced to you by one of my friends. She gave me your books as gifts for my birthday. And I was in love with it because I'll tell you a little bit of my background. So my father's side is the Durga goddess, Saptashringi Mata, is the family goddess. So that's all really strong women in the family. And the goddess image was always there in my life. Like that's our family goddess. So Durga is everywhere in any ritual. And from my mother's side is a Natha Sampradaya. So Nathas from my mother's side, mother's town is situated where the recent awakening of Natha Sampradaya, Sant Jnaneshwar, has happened there in that town, and it's still you sense that in that temple his presence, and that's where Sant Jnaneshwar Maharaj, take a samadhi. So that's, and all my uncle's names is Natha Sampradaya's names, the Nathas. So it's there, like it's constantly there. And on top of that, obviously, Veda's wisdom is always there. And when I was reading to a book, I'm like, oh my God, she knows what she's talking about, And I just fell in love with all your work. And so thank you for, being on the podcast. I really appreciate that. And I also like your work because it's approachable, even though it is so deep and so divine, but it still gives you a feeling that I can do this, even in my busy life, that kind of thing. And that's what my friend who started following your work, she said that's what she loved, because having 2 kids, full-time job, and running around and still managing meditation. And she said this really works for her. So the concept is that you don't have to go to Himalaya for this experience. You can still get it. Excuse me. You can still get it here in this now. Would you like to talk a little bit about like how you started bringing that into day-to-day life, what people can do to do these practices into their day-to-day life? How long this should be the practice, things like that.
Yes. Okay. Well, that's an entire class.
Yes.
So I I was always fairly full-time
Mm.
in my practice, but most of my practice was seva.
Mm.
So though I was living in an ashram and though I had pretty much dedicated my life to practice, I was still busy the way people are busy when they have jobs. Didn't have kids, which makes a big difference. Um, uh, so what I discovered for myself was that if I meditated for an hour in the morning and then did japa, did mantra japa at intervals during the day when I wasn't engaged, when my mind wasn't engaged in anything, that first of all there would be a state of well-being that was always there to return to, and that the mantra practice would kind of keep me attuned to the heart. So what I always suggest for people who are real householders, and I do think being a parent is not only challenging, it's one of the it's really one of the major ways of coming to God, if you understand it as seva. So first of all, I would say that the concept of karma yoga, the concept of seva, from which the Bhagavad Gita and the whole Hindu tradition privileges so much, it's incredibly important, and it's the way to turn your otherwise often frustrating, sometimes beautiful, worldly life into practice, is by just remembering to offer everything you do. And whether you offer it to God or whether you offer it for the benefit of all beings, or whether you offer it to the earth, it doesn't really matter. It's that idea of dedicating your life to something greater and higher that kind of rescues our karma from being binding. So that's the kind of overall lifestyle shift that I suggest people make. Of course, most people can't do it all at once, but if you can wake up in the morning and offer your day and go to bed at night and offer your, in retrospect, offer your day, that's often enough. So in terms of of practice, what I often suggest to people is that you start with what you can manage, which could be 10 minutes. And that 10 minutes will begin to create a samskara, an impression in your subtle body, which will first of all keep bringing your mind back to that place. And then you might consider, if you have time, adding a minute a day till you get up to at least half an hour, which is often as much as busy people can handle. And then I suggest doing mantra practice pretty much all day if you can, but the best, the times when it's easiest to do it are when you're washing the dishes, mowing the lawn, taking a walk, on the treadmill, at the gym, eating. If you're not talking if you're eating alone, doing japa, repeating a mantra while you're eating is really, really good for your health, for your digestion, and as well as a way of really, one of the great Sufi masters, Hazrat Inayat Khan, used to say that the way we make the food we eat, the way we make our body able to assimilate the food we eat, is by doing mantra over the food, because that makes a connection between our subtle body and the prana in the food. And as you know, that the way you eat is incredibly important for your life. So I just suggest, to recapitulate, start with 10 minutes, add time to it, find a practice that you like, which can be a simple breath practice. Personally, most people who meditate these days seem to be doing some form of mindfulness practice where you count breaths, you pay attention to the breath, you count 1 to 10, and then you start again. I find that practice dry, but the breath is, of course, the anchor for meditation. And what I would often suggest is that you begin by meditating with Om, which is which is a very simple, easy to remember mantra, and you don't need initiation for it.
Yeah.
Or imagine light coming in with your breath and then flowing through your body with the exhalation. And you can even combine them. And this is really part of what this practice does. And this is a very tantric idea, is that it helps make your body as well as your mind subtle. That the whole, the problem, so to speak, with the human body, especially once we've grown up and gotten involved in all the stuff we're involved in, is that it becomes quite dense and full of tension, and not to mention all the dis-ease that we accumulate over time. So what meditation can do, especially meditation of light and mantra, which, sacred sound, is it just can begin to break up the tension. And what I found over time, and this takes a while, I mean, years, it doesn't happen overnight for most people unless you're really spiritually talented, which I was not. I was pretty much of I was kind of a slow learner. The only thing I had was that I was committed. But I really I didn't have a whole lot of spiritual experiences in my early years. But what happened was that over time, over the course of 2 or 3 years, the feeling of being in my body became more and more an experience of lightness, and eventually of light. And this is as you know, it's a fundamental tantric idea that as you inject sacred sound and sacred vision into your body, that it divinizes, it makes your body ultimately into a sacred body, which our bodies are. It's just that we haven't awakened the sacred powers within our body. And I'm not only talking about kundalini, but about, the powers that exist really all over the body, in the chakras, but in, parts of the body that aren't officially chakras. So by working with mantra, working with breath, paying attention to tension, feeling into tension, offering a mantra into the tension, or making space around the tension, we gradually dissolve the tensions that are in the body, and release occurs. It's a very subtle process, but it's unfailing.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah.
My personal experience is similar. I was drawn to this wisdom because of my grandmother. I've seen her always meditating and always saying the goddess's name. She had her guru, and I've seen the devotion of her towards this path of, just constantly chanting mantra. That's what she did. Everything she did, there was a joy in that. And she lived with us, my father's mother. She lived with us, a very gentle soul. And I've seen this wisdom, what it can do to the mind. Like, she was glowing, it just, in her presence, we felt safe, we felt nurtured, we felt care. And I feel this similar thing when I met my guru, which was also like just a few years ago. And he hardly speaks. My guru is in Kopergaon, just a half an hour from my hometown, actually. But I had to travel all around the world, and then I met him. When I met him, I was in sea of hundreds of Indian people, and he looked at me directly and experienced the Shaktipat just by his look. And then later I was asked to meditate in his presence. And so some of us went and meditated. And that's when I felt like a pain releasing from my body towards him. Like, I felt a pain release there. And I realized that what my practice was before and what is now is completely different.
Wow.
And having that guru's, even though he doesn't speak, he just said one sentence to me. He said, "Where were you? I have been waiting for you." And then he said, everyone started looking, who is he talking to? Is this woman? And he said, "You're a bridge between the worlds." And he went
How
back to
beautiful.
meditation.
How
Yeah,
beautiful is that?
it was
Wow.
quite profound. And I'm like, oh my God, what's happening? The
Yeah.
rational mind wanted to talk and all that. Um, but I also sometimes feel that, in meditation, we get these experiences, deep experiences. And sometimes it feels a need of having a guru or guide. What are your thoughts about that in this modern world? Say, someone picking up your book and maybe getting these experiences, what is your suggestion to them? Um, Finding a guru in this modern world is really difficult. There are a lot of shady things happening out there.
Yeah.
So I understand people's fears. So any suggestions for people getting these maybe beautiful experiences, but there is sometimes I notice in my students, my clients, there is a fear around it because it unknown, fear of unknown. And so how can people ground those who are listeners may not have a guidance? So how can they ground their practices? Can you suggest something?
Well, yeah, I mean, that is a big issue. One of the things that's happened in the modern world, for many reasons, but because I would say to some large extent, beginning with the Indian diaspora and the Tibetan diaspora, that these very profound esoteric teachings and teachers began to, show up all over the world. I mean, not only in America and Europe, also in China, which is there's quite a lot of spiritual activity, oddly enough, in China. So, and there are not great Siddha masters everywhere you turn.
Yes.
So, and many of the teachers that, at best, the teachers who I find trustworthy are usually disciples of a very realized guru, and they may not be in that guru's state themselves, but they're carrying lineage Shakti. And, as I know Sunita, that it's actually the Shakti of the guru lineage, which in my tradition, your tradition,
Yeah.
it's said to come directly from Shiva or directly from the goddess, depending on the nature of the lineage, comes down through the human sampradaya and moves through let's call them the faithful disciples of the self-realized masters, of the Siddha gurus in the lineage. So I found that you can trust a teacher who may not necessarily be a guru in the traditional sense, but who is a true acharya. I like to make a distinction between a guru who's somebody who is, forgive me for using this word, so pickled in the divine that every word they say can call up that state in you. And a guru is someone who's qualified to take full responsibility for your spiritual progress, even after you leave your body. So there are very few such things around. But such gurus, and there are people who haven't been with Siddha gurus, who fall in this category, who are knowledgeable. They've studied, they know the scriptures, they know the texts, they know the practices, they have integrity, and such people are reliable guides. That again, as Sunita, as you probably know, what the scriptures of the traditions that I studied with say is that to be reliable, a teacher has to be connected to a lineage master.
Yes.
I don't think that's entirely true. I mean, I have met teachers who did not have a guru, but who are in a very advanced state and are beings of integrity. So it's not quite that cut and dried, but knowing the lineage is a very good guide to whether a teacher is trustworthy. So that's one piece. Obviously, for many reasons, we have jobs, we have families, we are not going to go traveling all around the world looking for teachers. What we do have is the internet, and with all of its, with all the dangers of the internet, and there's a lot of fake spiritual information on the internet, as in every other field. Nonetheless, there some of the great teachers of our time can be found, on the internet. They give talks, they give teachings, they give mantras, and if there's a teacher whom you have reason to trust or whom you're drawn to, the chances are very good that you can find them on YouTube or go to their website and actually have an experience with them that will give a transmission, that will deepen your practice. So that's a very beautiful thing. And you just have to be careful. I mean, even more careful on the internet than you are in person. Yeah. So that's a short answer. I would say, the stories we read about gurus doing untoward things, and betraying their disciples in one way or another are very scary. So it's good to be discerning and to, they say test the guru. One of the things my guru used to say is that it's all very well for you to test the guru, but you should also realize the guru is also going to be testing you. And the truth is, and this is also something he said that, again, in my experience, I have found to be true. If you're really sincere in your practice, you're going to make progress even with a teacher who may not be the ultimate, but you can make sufficient progress so that you'll be led you'll be led to the wisdom that you need, to the teachers that you need. And as long as you're keeping your discernment and being appropriately questioning without engaging in the kind of doubt that makes it impossible to practice, then you'll probably be okay. And I just would say one more thing. That many people become disillusioned with their teachers at a certain point. It could be for many reasons. I mean, sometimes it can be for a very good reason. Sometimes it could be because they're not able to process the fact that your spiritual teacher is also a human being with quirks and foibles and areas that are not skillful, and who even does things that you just can't deal with at all. But one thing that I've discovered and that I feel is very important is to recognize that disillusionment is part of the path. So if you doubt, or if you have a question, or if you feel disillusioned with your guru, just understand that what's happening is you're being turned back onto your own self, towards the guru presence that's in all of us. And what, of course, the greatest truth about the guru is that the human guru, the external guru, awakens our relationship with the guru inside. And so that will happen.
Very well said. Beautifully said. Ultimately, it's our journey. And a lot of time I've seen that people want to put this experience on others, in a sense, like looking up to the guru, having certain expectations about the guru. And those expectations, when they are not met, they feel shattered. And this is where I think we need to understand that this is all our own journey, our own experiences, and we meant to have maybe this experience, even though if the guru is not what people think that the guru should be. Again, that's the expectation. We are kind of like creating this illusion of what guru is. When I met my guru, the experience was absolutely, I cannot put it in words.
Yeah.
And before that, I have met many siddhas, many, teachers, gurus. And I used to have this doubt in back of my mind that, is this my guru?
Yeah.
But when I met my guru, there was no doubt. There was just total peace. I can't explain it in words. It was a very energetic thing. Energetically, he's massive, but physically he's a very tiny being, like it's like short, but I felt like I was held in a mother's energy. And these kind of experiences, I must have done something right in past life so that I have this experience. I wasn't expecting that to happen, because you never know, is this going to happen this lifetime or next lifetime? That's how I look at it. And fortunately it happened this lifetime. But he's a silent guru, so I cannot ask anything. I can just invoke his energy in my meditation and it guides me. So there's no words exchange. It's very difficult to explain. He's in India, I'm in Australia. Like, it's all these things, like, but still his presence gives me that guidance. And I think that the grounding practices also help, just accepting these practices as experience. I think that that's really helpful. What are your thoughts? Like, is that how you look at it? These experiences sometimes come in meditation.
Oh yeah. That, and a lot of wisdom comes in meditation.
Mm.
The thing is, yeah, and the relationship that you're talking about is kind of, as you know, it's kind of classic. I mean, there was a time, I guess, when people lived in the same village as their guru and just, saw the guru at the temple or crossing the street or, etc. in the market. Not true anymore for most people. So generally speaking, that's how our sadhana goes. We're in one place, the guru is somewhere else. Maybe you see them once or twice a year, or maybe you don't see them for years.
Mm.
And that I've always found it's very useful to have regular contact, even if it's only once a year, because that's what kind of rekindles the flame and the connection. But other than that, if your guru is someone who can really guide you energetically, then it all happens it can all happen internally.
Mm.
And and there are all sorts of tricks that we do, like looking at a picture of the guru and asking a question and seeing what comes up inside. I mean, there's just many ways that you can invoke wisdom, and we become, one of the things that I often say is that meditation teaches you how to meditate. Mm-hmm. So if you keep at it, if you keep going inside, if you keep asking, what is this experience? And if you're going to ask, don't ask during meditation, wait until after meditation. But every experience you have is going to reveal something about the truth of what you are. Whether it's a light that passes through in meditation, whether it's a feeling, which to me, it's the feeling experiences that are the most important. Just the shift in your sense of self, the feeling of love that comes over you, the spaciousness that arises sometimes in meditation. Those experiences, even more than the extraordinary visual gifts that some people have, if they change your bhava, your inner feeling, your sense of yourself, then that's how you know that a particular practice or a particular type of sadhana is really making a difference. It's meant to transform you, often very subtly, in very little ways, and what it transforms is your feeling, your sense of self, your sense of other people, your ability to be kind and compassionate, as you spoke about your grandmother. Yeah. Those are the qualities of someone who does serious spiritual practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. I mean, the pure love in these beings' experience is amazing, and that the word love, compassion, it just vibrates there. Sally, where can my listeners find you? I will put your all information on your website and your social media contact, but what are the courses you're offering now? What can people, look forward to on your website to do? Would you like to talk about it?
Well, I have a bunch of short programs that are coming up in the next 2 or 3 months.
Mhm.
A couple of them are free. I'm doing a free meditation class every month. The next one is on Shivaratri, which is Monday, the 28th. I don't know if people will be hearing the podcast before that. But I generally do one the first weekend of every month, and usually on a Saturday. And in those classes, I'm sort of going through the basics of meditation from a Kashmir Shaiva viewpoint, from a non-dual viewpoint. There are a number of audio courses on my website that you can purchase and download. And much of what we've been, the classes that we've been talking about, they're actual classes on seven. Most of them are seven part classes. There's a couple of series on the Bhagavad Gita. There's several series on different Kashmir Shaiva texts. There's one on the Yoga Sutra. There's a class on love, which a lot of people like a lot. And there's the most recent one was called Cultivating Shakti, which is actually about Goddess Durga. We did it on Navratri in 2021. So you can do these courses and my programs. And I have, my books are for sale on Amazon, and as well as some of the audio meditations. So I'm pretty accessible.
Yeah. I love your books. I highly recommend those who are listeners. I love books. I love Sally's. I've Googled you and listened to you on YouTube a lot with some of your older podcasts as well. And amazing, amazing work you do. So much gratitude towards you for doing this, because this wisdom you're sharing, it's again, I would say that it's very accessible. It feels that I can do this, and I like that kind of practices where we bring it in these ancient wisdom into our day-to-day life here in this now. And the practices and your understanding of the goddesses, that's how I've seen them in my meditation.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
And so
I'm so glad to hear that.
It's just when you mention, Lakshmi, and you talk about Lakshmi, and I'm like, oh my God, has she been in my meditation? How does she know? Because it's your experience as well. And it was like Lakshmi, Durga, goddess Kali. Kali came to me in such a profound love. It was the massive love explosion experience for me.
Yeah.
And looking at her image, people think they're fearful, but for me, it was pure love. And when I was going through your book, I'm like, this is amazing. These experiences and the mantras, the practices you've given are very true to the traditions of, and that's what I love about your all the offerings you do. And I will try to be there for the meditation next time, because our
Right.
time zone and all that.
I
hope
know.
we record it somehow.
Yeah, we always record it. I know it's hard. It's hard to tune in live from Australia.
Yeah.
I'm actually doing the meditation class. I don't know how this works in Australia, but normally I teach at 5 p.m, but it's very hard for people in Europe. So I'm doing the meditation workshops at 11 a.m. my time, which works for Europeans. It works out to 8 o'clock London time. I don't know. I'm not quite sure about the time in Australia. It's like tomorrow in Australia, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're already on Friday. I was looking at the calendar. I'm like, oh my God, Sally is coming on podcast on today is Friday, right? We are recording. I'm like, maybe it's not Friday for Sally, but it's for me.
It's Thursday here. Yeah, but it's very confusing because we have a lot of interactions with people from different continents, And I always scratch my head and think, okay, wait a minute. Yeah.
If you're recording it, then definitely, I mean, we'll have access for that. So that's
Yeah.
good to know.
Yeah, everything is recorded.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
And a secret, my audio courses are, the recordings are considerably less expensive than the live. Partly because a big part of my classes is the community communication. The community, my community is a lot of very great souls in that community, and they offer a lot of wisdom. So when you take the classes live, you can participate in that. But when you do the audio, of course, you can do it at your own pace, and also you get all the written materials, the homework. I give a lot of practice homework, so we give a lot of practices that you can use not just during the course, but for the rest of your life.
Beautiful. That's good to know. Definitely, I'll be there. And thank you for being here, Sally. Really, really appreciate you being here. I love your work, and I wish you all the best. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Sunita. It was really, really lovely. And thank you for your work and your practice and the love that comes through you. So it's really been a pleasure.
Thank you. Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate that you're taking this time out of your day. Don't forget to subscribe. Take care. Bye for now.